So are you taking a break from the Android app addicts too?
Yeah, they don't know that, but I need to let them know. Well, I mean, I did tell them that I would be taking some time off.
Yeah, I hope you don't like want to quit this one because honestly, this is like the highlight. This is the highlight of my week, Sunday evening doing this show. So no pressure.
Okay, we're looking at right over the top of your head. Can you lower that just a little bit?
Oh, let me get back. Bring that up. No, I'm going for Wilson.
Yeah. Of course, I don't know that it matters. That my stream up is so terrible. That's actually the one good thing about moving. I'm moving to an area that I can get much higher bandwidth. Unfortunately, it's through Comcast, but I should be able to get like 10 megs up instead of 1.5 that I have now.
Well, that will be good.
Excuse me, up to 10 megs up, which could be 1.5.
Right. Well, you get up to, so.
All right. Let's go ahead and start some recordings, shall we?
I am recording.
Go ahead.
I'm even trying to hang out in the chat room too.
Do my preemptive power off. Yeah, we've got the underwriter. It's the paperwork's officially going to hit the underwriter's desk tomorrow. Only like 6.5 weeks after we sent them all the paperwork. So I should know something one way or the other by the end of the week. Okay, let's turn off that. Turn off that. So I'm not hearing the whole conversation over and over again in my head or in my headphones. Okay, anything we need to do? We need to do something. I don't know what. That we
what
don't.
Do you mean?
We're just stagnant. We don't have. The audience isn't growing. There's nobody here live. I mean, we're just sitting and spinning. We lost our 2 sponsors. Patreon numbers have actually been going down. All these things tell me that we're not doing the job that people want us to do. And when they lose interest in paying us for it, that must mean that we're not doing it well.
Or shifting away from Linux was a bad move.
Well, all we did was change the name.
Right.
We'd shifted away from Linux for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's amazing if you give something lip service, you don't have to deal with it. They just want to be acknowledged.
Well, there's that.
I don't know. I don't know who to ask. When I think about guests and things, I still think along the Linux open source type stuff. And the news stories I look for are still, Linux open source technology kind of stuff. And I don't know how, invite somebody from the Big Bang Theory if they want to be on our podcast. That I don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's just a thing. Like I said, I'm not ready to call it quits or anything, but it just has got me thinking that, the market is telling us that we're not doing a good job. And I don't know what it is that they want. I don't know what we could do better, but clearly we're not meeting the need because we're not growing. Not only not growing, we're slipping back a little bit. So we're just not doing our job.
Do you think part of it could be that we don't have a real social media outreach?
Well,
We have
it certainly
a
could
Facebook
be.
page, but
And, I'm not where the kids today are, right? I'm not on
right.
Reddit and I'm not on YouTube. Um, you know, I mean, I guess we could hit record and let this conversation be part of the record and see what people think. I don't know. Seems kind of navel gazy.
Well, and honestly, this hasn't really brought about feedback when we've done it in the
That's
past.
true. Nothing
So,
has. I mean, the only thing that ever gets any feedback is me saying something wrong. That gets feedback.
so maybe we just try to you start saying stuff wrong on purpose, and we can change the name again to is Mark wrong?
Just a website. Is Mark wrong? Yes or no? It's green if it's no. It's red if it's yes. It would just always
Or
be on red.
yeah, well, have like a continuum, never wrong, always wrong, and then just it wavers.
I am sure that's why I know why that is I speak with authority on everything I speak with. I just do naturally. So when an authority figure is wrong, you lambast him for it. You and Chris are much less authoritative. You don't come off as bombastic, and so people cut you some slack.
Yeah, I come off as a pretty much an idiot when I listen. I was like, man, I'm not that stupid, really. But I was like, well, maybe I am, because that's how I sound every episode.
All
I
right.
like a good foil for you, so I'm your setup man. You owe me.
Yes. Okay. Anything else before we kick it into high gear? YouTube people, you're the only people hearing this. You are special. Oh yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I haven't, there's nothing, that tagline I've never, that's why the numbers have slipped. We don't have a tagline anymore.
Yeah, I guess
Life
that's it.
Life in the context of Linux. They don't know. We're just GeekRant. They don't know what we are. We need that tagline.
The only show on the internet where geeks rant.
Yes.
I kind of like that, actually, because it's such a bald-faced lie, All right, here we go.
All righty then.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to GeekRant, episode 235. Seth really wants some news. Recorded May 1st, October. Why did I even say that? Let's try that again. Hello, everyone, and welcome to GeekRant, episode 235. Seth really wants some news. Recorded May 1st, 2016, and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the only show on the internet where geeks rant. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining us this week is your friend and mine, Seth the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hey, Seth, how's it going?
Pretty good, Mark. How are you doing this fine day?
I am doing well. I've got to enjoy some good family time this weekend. When that's why Chris is not with us, because he is in fact doing family time. This kind of time of year, there's all sorts of dance recitals and plays. In fact, I just rushed back from a church play tonight to be here. Chris is at a dance recital that went a little long. One of my friends at church spent like 6 hours today at a dance thing for his daughter, and then came and the same daughter was in the play that my church was doing. Tomorrow, I'm taking the day off for a thing at my kid's school. So it's just that kind of time of year where if you're a parent of really ninth grade and below, less so in high school, everything is going on all at once.
I have nothing to say. Yet again, you bring up a topic I have nothing to contribute to.
But I'm sure you've seen it around. You know parents. Yeah, it's just it's a good thing. But people just try to cram everything into December and May. And that's just the way it is. And here we are. It is officially May. I just wanted to say, I mentioned last week on the show that I had ordered my first entry-level pro grade, and pro is not the right word, because as far as I know, there's not a pro quadcopter circuit. Maybe there is. Quadcopter. So this one, it's the first one that's not a toy. It's a real one with real motors, and it's made out of fiberglass and graphite. And so I am now very well versed in the art of repairing a quadcopter. Apparently not flying at all. Because so far I bought 3 batteries that should give me between 12 and 18 minutes of life on each battery, and I've only managed to run one dead one time, and that was not in a single flight. I fly it, I crash it, I repair it. I fly it, I crash it, I repair it. I fly it, I crash it, I repair it. I thought I had developed some skills. I thought starting on this trainer toy level drones would give me some skills that would apply to the more advanced one. But no, it's like if you can ride a lawnmower and you think you can handle a Mustang. It's that kind of thing. It's so much more power, so much more complicated. It's heavier. It's just I am now rank idiot once again. I had moved up to novice, and now I'm back to imbecile.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things there. One, we need repairmen. Not everybody gets to be a pilot. Somebody has to fix the machines to keep them in the air. And number two, you're adding to the skill set you had.
That's true.
So before you can learn to steer, you first need to learn to go in a straight line. You can't run. You first have to learn to fall and not kill yourself. Then you can walk, which is perpetual falling. And then you get to where you can run. And then you can do zigzags and stuff. So, I guess you're on the falling and not hurting yourself
learning to take a fall. The good thing is these things are designed to be modular and easy to repair because they crash. That's what they do, and I'm buying spare parts and replacing them. I've gone through, my toy grade ones had propeller protectors on them. This one doesn't. And I didn't think that was a big deal because I had gotten to the point where I wasn't crashing very often. So I didn't invest in those. And now I've gone through like 6 sets of propellers. Because when they crash, what hits, right? The extended arms, the first thing that hits are the propellers. Fortunately,
Right.
they're, $1.50 each. It's not a big deal. But I snapped one of the arms off. I found that wire tie will hold that back together really nicely. It's a zip tie machine right now. I've broken some of the standoffs, same standoffs that if you've ever mounted a motherboard on a PC, same thing, only a little bigger. Hold some of the electronics on, but they're nylon. I've snapped some of those off. Fortunately, being a geek, I had spares. And between duct tape and zip ties, I've managed to keep it flying until I ran all out of propellers, and I have some more on the way.
All you need to do is get a little baling wire on it, and you'll hit the redneck trifecta.
That's a little heavy, but yeah, I might need to go there. It's just I flew it into a park bench. I mean, smack into a park bench, just ka-tang at about 30 miles an hour. I'm such a moron at this thing. And it's a whole different skill set. Anyway, as I've mentioned before, I haven't bought the kind of drones where the computer does all the work. Like if you get a DJI Phantom that you mount a camera under, that thing is designed to do all the flying for you. You're a cameraman, not a drone pilot.
Right.
So that's what those are for. You push a button, it goes where you want it to do. You program the GPS, and it just does it. And you can focus on being a cameraman. And so anybody out there who's got one of those and saying, "What are you whining about?" That's not what I've got, and that's not what I want. I've got much dumber, much more performance oriented device, and so I'm trying to learn to fly a washing machine in the air. And I watched some of these things. There's a guy who's active in the Podnuts community named Liam Tidwell. You can look him up on YouTube, and he flies with the FPV first person view goggles. And he's got videos on YouTube of he's like at the playground at his high school, zipping through the chains on the swing sets and looping around and flying through the trees in a wooded area and going under and around and on the same size quad, same type of thing that I'm doing. And I'm like, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. All right, I hovered for about 5 seconds now. One more time. Up, don't crash, don't crash, crash. Ah. So there's a way to go. I know it can be done. I'm just not there yet.
Well, but you're endeavoring to improve your piloting skills, so that's worth something.
Yeah,
however much propellers cost.
I found a great hole to throw money down. So that's great. And if you're tired of listening to me talk about it, imagine being my family. They're freaking sick of hearing about quads. So you're just getting a taste of what they get.
So when you're living in a van down by the river because all of your money went to propellers and standoffs, everyone will know why.
Yeah, I bought a whole new body kit just because I'm staffing off parts. I need to be able to just replace them out, just sub those out. And the whole kit is $28, I think, dollars. So it's none of this is big expenses, but it's lots of little expenses. And yeah, I'm sure if I sat down, that's why I'm not going to do it. I'm sure if I sat down and added it all up, I could have bought like a Sikorsky helicopter, a real one, by now.
You could pay for the pilot to fly you around.
Yes. I could have a personal chauffeur for what I've spent on toys. So that's what's going on in my life. Seth, what's going on in your life?
Well, I've decided to kind of dip my toe back into the gainfully employed community.
Whoa, easy there, big fella.
Part-time, couple of nights, which doing like, this isn't hard back-breaking manual labor, but it's on your feet the whole time. And so, like 12 hours walking around, swapping out computers, crawling around inside spaces that they weren't designed for. They designed the space and then threw a computer in it. So that's fun. But we're swapping out POS systems. And yes, POS does stand for more than one thing at Walmart's. And it's kind of, I made the mistake the first night I did it. I ran first. Like, I woke up about noon because I was like, I'm going to be up all night. So I stayed up late the night before. So I got up late. I ran. And then I went and stood on my feet for 12 hours. I was so tired. And the next day I could barely move. So I need to get back to a desk job. I think that's where I want to be in life. I don't want to be actual physical labor.
And for those of you excoriating Seth right now for having said Walmart's, he's not the redneck saying down at the Walmart's, they got pork rinds 2 for $3. He means plural, multiple Walmart stores. Walmart's, yes. Plural.
Different ones.
Yes, because that's around here. It's down at the Walmart's. Everything in the South has an S on it, whatever it is. It's an apostrophe S usually.
Yep.
If it doesn't already end in an S, we go ahead and put one on it just for fun.
Yeah, just because we're from the South and South starts with S, and we want everybody to know that.
You go down to the Targets. Why are you going down to this? It's like Smith's hardware or Johnson's dry good. We in the South, we picked up that ownership and we throw that possessive S on everything.
Simpler times.
So that's all we have there. We don't have any feedback from the audience. You guys apparently have just no longer care about us. That's okay. I don't blame you. Nobody's told me to shut up about the quads yet, though. So we don't have any of that to go through. So let's jump straight into a bit of news. The Humble Bundle without games. Now, that's not totally unusual, but it's certainly, we don't talk much about Humble Bundles that don't involve games.
It's the first one I've ran across. And, since I'm not in Steam, I don't really spend a lot of time at the Humble Bundle, but when it comes up on my news radar, so they have the Humble Book Bundle hacking. And so you get things like the Linux command line, how to hack the Xbox, Bitcoin for the befuddled. I think that's a really good title for a book. Black Hat Python and all this. You can get everything for $15. It's really, if you want to learn this kind of stuff, this is a very good bargain for it. And of course the Humble Bundle is an awesome bargain when they do the games. So you're getting an awesome bargain here. And this one, the Maker's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. Defend your base with simple circuits, Arduino, and Raspberry Pi. So, come on, what more could you want out of a Humble Book Bundle? So it's all about hacking and of course, any person involved in security needs to know what hacking is, because you got to know what people are trying to do so you know how to defend against it. So I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, I just wanted to share that out there. It's good for another 9 days. I think the 10th is the last day of it, May 10th. So you'll have a while after the show drops to get it out, to go get it if you're interested.
And to get all these things that Seth has mentioned, currently you need to pay $15 to get all of the books. The initial bundle, somebody has just decided to run water above me. You hear that? It sounds like a nest of snakes has crawled into my microphone.
It's a lot worse this week than it was last week.
It's really, really loud. But the reason I tell it's because I tell them not to. But this is apparently not only is somebody taking a bath or running a shower, but it's in the bathroom right above me. So sorry about that. I'll try to filter it out. But you're going to hear some of it. Anyway, DRM free multi-format. You get 4 books. Just pay what you want. You get a penny, you get $4. Automating the boring stuff with Python, Linux, the command line, the Smart Girl's Guide to Privacy, and Hacking the Xbox. If you pay more than the average, which is currently $14.92, you get the Zombie Apocalypse one and the Bitcoin one and a couple of others. And then you get 4 more if you pay $15 more. So there you go. That's the way the Humble Bundle works. The more you pay, the more you get.
Yep.
It is pay what you want, but the more you pay, the more you get. I like it. I did want to say, while we were on the topic of Bitcoins, somebody out there is sending me 0.005 Bitcoin. Is that 5 Satoshis? Is that right? Every time we produce a show, which I think is great. I'm guessing they've got some sort of automated script going there because it happens at a predictable time. So you're probably doing this because you want to remain anonymous, but I would really like to give you credit for being so clever, for watching our RSS feed and doing an automated transaction every time a show comes out, to the tune of currently 22 cents worth of Bitcoin. So that's pretty cool. Hats off to you for that.
That's cool. The cool thing about Bitcoin, you can do little bits of money like that. And, granted, we can't live off of 22 cents a week, but it's just one of those things. Hey, I enjoy the show, a little something. And, it's if Bitcoins come to nothing, you're not really out anything. But if they grow, and keep growing, then, hey, this could turn into real money.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, it looks like he's got it hard coded at 0.005 Bitcoin because that amount doesn't change no matter how the things go up and down. But, if Bitcoin spikes up like people are expecting it, that could be a significant amount of money soon. In which case I would expect him to add a 0 or so in there. But
right.
Anyway, kind of a cool thing that I wanted to mention since you mentioned Bitcoin. So there's Patreon, and now there's automated subscriptions via Bitcoin. Kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
So while we're on the topic of encryption and encrypted currency, the Security Week has an article that says encrypted network traffic comes at a cost. Well, didn't we all know this?
Yeah, and they make a point that by when you encrypt your traffic, okay, yes, you're making it harder for people to eavesdrop on you, but you are adding a significant amount of work to your firewall at the end because it has to decrypt everything to scan it and then re-encrypt it to send it to your network. And, and if you have the latest, greatest, 14,000 core VM in the cloud running, then it's no problem. But if you've got your old Pentium 486 trying to, cache YouTube or whatever, that could be an issue. And it just points out that the processing power to encrypt and decrypt and re-encrypt the SSL nature that the web is moving to, it's going to run into an overhead. And so, it's one of those things, the more secure something is, the more effort you have to put into accessing it. Either, you have to enter your password, or you have to have a token, or you have to click these 17 objects in a specific order, or you have to provide horsepower for the computer to do that for you. So it's just pointing out that, yes, this is making the web more secure, but at the same time, you're introducing bottlenecks that is going to slow down the flow of information. And this is not something that people talk about. A lot of times, I remember people were talking about how much faster the internet was going to be whenever it moved to IPv6. But what they weren't telling you is the reason it was going to be 4 times as fast is you were going to have to upgrade the routers to be 20 times as fast to do the extra encryption that came with the IPv6. So, yes, the machines are getting faster and they're getting smaller and they're getting more efficient. So it's not like we're going to go backwards. We're just not going to go forward in the speed the information flows. And it was just an interesting thing to talk about because most people don't think about that. They just think that, I have the S and now Facebook is slower, the internet's down.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons early on that HTTPS was so slow to get a start. Why so many people don't do it, and today there that excuse isn't really an excuse anymore. It takes too much processing power just compared to even the average desktop, let alone a rack mount server. Encrypting every packet that comes in is trivial, but that wasn't the case 20 years ago, and that's the reason, even though we've had these encryption protocols for a long time, they were slow getting a start because they are there's a cost. There is a there's time, measured often in milliseconds, but that wasn't the case originally. It would slow things down, but also, your processors are running hotter, you're using more electricity, you're using more cooling. You need more steps involved in the process, and the end user sees a little more. That, although we've certainly made that a lot easier now, but it used to be that, and some certainly badly designed websites now, like a lot of corporate sites, if you go to www.mycorporatesite.com, you get nothing. It times out and you go https://www.mycorporatesite.com, it gets there. And that's just, somebody being too lazy to do a redirect. But as you said, there is a cost to that. Somebody had to think of that, and somebody had to do it, and they didn't. So that's, back in the early days, you might have to use the www. If you just did like Disney.com, you might not get to Disney. You'd have to go to www. So that's like in 97, 98. And I think, that now is not an issue. If you don't need it, the browser can put it on there for you if you can't find it. I think that's going to happen with encryption over time as well. It'll be just like the www. Now people don't even mention www when they're doing web addresses anymore, and we're not going to mention encryption. But as you said, it does come at a cost. I would say, however, I think that the technology is advancing for many other reasons, and tacking on the encryption to that is a non-issue. And I think that's the right way to do it. If we had tried to push encryption back when it took a lot of, a certain percentage of the processor's power, there would have been a lot harder time doing it. But now, think of sites like services like Let's Encrypt. It is very painless to set that up, and it's only going to get easier because we're already getting better, and we're already getting faster for other stuff, for pushing 1080p web video, for scalable databases, for all that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit of FUD here. I'm calling FUD, but it's also, as most FUD is, it's based on facts.
Well, and another thing, if you have that old original blue Linksys G router, that router is still able to pump out, and the speed at which it broadcasts is fine, but the horsepower inside of that and the firmware on it is such that you're going to think there's something wrong with your internet. Why is my internet so slow? Because that old hardware can't do the decryption fast enough. It becomes the bottleneck. The bottleneck is no longer between your endpoint and the wherever your ISP is. The bottleneck has actually become your device. Now, if you've got one in the last couple of years, that's not an issue. But if you got broadband 6 years ago or 7 years ago, and you still have that equipment, but now it seems like Netflix takes longer to start, YouTube videos take longer to start. Well, then this could be. It might not be your provider. It might be your endpoint hardware. So upgrading your gateway device would make you seem like, oh my gosh, I got a speed bump.
Yeah, that's excellent point, because not only has the technology grown, but the number of devices in your house has grown. Everybody in this listening audience, I don't care how much of a troglodyte you are, if you're listening to a podcast, you're an advanced technical person, and I can almost assure you that in the last 5 years, the number of electronic network devices in your house is probably doubled or more. And people don't think about that. I didn't think about that. Just in the last year, I found, why is everything crappy? Why is my bandwidth? Why is YouTube stuttering? Why is Netflix? And then I did an assessment, like, well, I've got 14 network connected devices running 24 hours a day. Well, yes, the same gear that I used to use isn't going to cut it anymore. But we in the early days, I keep going back to that, we got used to thinking of the little blue box, the router, as infrastructure. like electrical. Once you run electrical wiring, you're pretty much set. You never need to run more electrical wiring for anything. And copper is the same way for the most part. You run Cat 5 or Cat 6, you're going to be good for in the span of decades with that. Wireless is not that's not the case. We've expanded so much, and that little Broadcom chip in the Linksys blue box that's sitting, on your bookcase has been outdated. And I don't like to use the word obsolete, but that is truly now an obsolete device in that it no longer does the function it was designed for. You were doing more than you can handle. Even if you're just browsing stuff on your iPad, you don't think of yourself as doing much, but you are. You're browsing on your iPad, your kid's on a laptop, you've got a cell phone in your pocket that's also connected via Wi-Fi, and you've got that smart printer that you bought a couple of years ago, because they're all smart, they're all Wi-Fi now. That's using stuff. You may have some Internet of Things going on. Your Nest thermostat that's out there. All of that stuff is now going through this one device that would already stretch it, but then you layer encryption onto that, it gets even worse. So excellent point. That's a good rule of thumb. There is every 2 computers buy a new router, like every 2 generations. I just made that up, but most people buy a new laptop every 3 to 5 years. Some more often, some less often. But if your router is 6 years old, even if it works fine, quote unquote works fine, it's probably time to get another one.
Yeah, or at the very least, check to see if there's been an updated firmware, or go with DDWRT or Tomato or something like that. But like, okay, I'm a cheapskate. Everybody knows that. When I go to a computer, okay, what's the least I can spend? But when I go to replace my wireless, what's the most I can afford? Because that is something that I don't want to have to tinker with. I enjoy tinkering on my computer. I don't want to tinker with my infrastructure. So what's the most I can afford here? Or when does that product go on sale? Because that's the one I want. You want to pay because you want to pay for that, because that's going to be sitting in the same place. You're not going to be moving it. It should, once it's up and going, it should go. So that's something you don't want to skimp on. You can kind of skimp on computing power for the most part, because the $300 computers does everything 90% of the population needs. But for something like that, when you're doing your infrastructure buys, what's the most you can afford?
And for the most part, they're not upgradable. So what you get is what you've got.
Yeah.
You can upgrade the firmware, you can fix bugs, but you're not going to get a dramatic performance increase out of an old chip just by putting new firmware on it. In some cases, it can make it worse. So
right.
That's an excellent point that I would not have taken from this article. But yeah, your endpoint devices are swimming in a much deeper ocean than they used to be.
Yeah. See, I had a reason for bringing this one up, not just fun.
There was a little bit of FUD there.
Well, yeah.
How about that Microsoft Edge browser? Isn't that just the greatest browser in the world?
Man, it is the greatest browser that comes pre-installed on a Windows operating system today. There isn't one better. So NetStat has released their next round of rankings, and for the first time in like this millennium, IE is no longer the number 1 spot in terms of percentage use. It has fallen, and Chrome has taken the size. So Chrome is up to 41.4%. No, Chrome is up to 41.7, and IE is down to 41.4. And the thing that is kind of significant about this is because I guess it's been about a year and a half ago, a different site said that, hey, Chrome has far surpassed IE, but the guy who was in charge of IE over at Microsoft at the time said, no, these stats aren't very good. These other ones are better. Well, now here, and Stat Counter was that one. So now, not only has it been surpassed on Stat Counter, it has also been surpassed on Net Applications. And one thing that I was shocked is how much Firefox has fallen. Firefox has fallen to under 10% of usage. And I was like, it's kind of sad, but I do notice now that Firefox seems to be a lot slower than it was before. Although today, Mark, I disabled Flash in my Firefox, and I'm just going to see how that, there's some games I played that were Flash based that won't work anymore, but how much will that impact my web as a whole? And I noticed that immediately my Firefox browser sped up a little bit. So anyway, that was just a little sidebar. I helped kill Flash today. But yeah, so IE is down. It's no longer the dominant. Chrome is number one, and Firefox has fallen below 10%. And that's so sad, because it's thanks to Firefox that we have a good browser today. Yes, every browser sucks, but the reason that even Internet Explorer is so much better than it was is because Firefox started, and then Microsoft goes, oh crap, we have to develop the browser again. So, come on, Firefox, pull through, come back to us. But anyway, so there's our number stats.
So
I know
you
love numbers so much.
The article doesn't say if it's talking about desktop or mobile. So I suspect that this is talking about web in general. And because Android is the dominant mobile phone and Chrome is the dominant browser on Android phones, I think that has been a big part of this.
Well, no, actually, it's in there. It is desktop. This is desktop usage.
Okay. I didn't see that anywhere in the article. I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying I don't believe you. But
okay.
I can confirm your experience. I think we all can. Firefox is getting a little crufty. The add-on infrastructure that made Firefox what it was, the ability to add options, put it on the map, but it also was its Achilles heel. If you're having a poor experience, there's a very good chance there's an extension to blame for it. But people don't blame the extension; they blame Firefox. I'm a slider. I run Firefox currently on 2 of the 3 computers in front of me. I have both Firefox and Chrome open at the same time. I do different things in different browsers, but more and more, I'm falling to Chrome because it's a better experience. And I think that Mozilla is in that spot where the only way out is to completely start over. That's what Microsoft did with Edge, right? They dumped most of the IE code and started over. And I think that the only reason Chrome is better right now is because they did that. They started with nothing. They started with WebKit and built up. And in 5, 6, 8 years, they'll become the crufty one, and somebody else will be. I think that's just the nature of age. Just that's not the word I want to say. Mature software is that it hits its prime, just like a human. It hits its prime and then starts going downhill from there.
And also, though, Chrome has a rather significant company with lots of money behind it, throwing money at it. And Firefox, they don't. For a while, they were getting a percentage of that company's money, but now they've went with Yahoo. And of course, I don't know if anyone could figure out a way to screw up a company more than Yahoo has done over the last few years, but that is probably going to be a very bad thing for Mozilla, that they kind of kicked Google to the curb and went with Yahoo. And so, the way Firefox lives is with the, I'm sure we're all regular contributors to the Mozilla Foundation. I've never given to them directly, but yet I use their stuff all the time. So I'm part of the reason that they suck is because I am not giving them the funds they need to maintain a good user experience. But I'm lamenting at the fact that the user experience is sucking. So I am the modern American computer user, in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah, I was just looking. I was going to see if I could find numbers to see the most recent numbers that the Mozilla Foundation puts out ends December 2014. So they're a year old, and I'm looking for the value. I know they're multi-million, not billion-dollar company, but that would all be pre dumping Google. So
right.
Google was giving them somewhere around $300 to $500 million a year, and that's gone. Or Yahoo has given them some, but don't know how much. So that may have been part of the problem in terms of funding, but it's not going to explain the decline of their browser. It may just explain why they're not able to keep it up But the fact is that it's an older piece of technology in a modern world.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but and that's the thing. Once you get, it's kind of the front runner's disease. Once you have this inertia of this is what we provide, you can't say, okay, we're going to start over now, because everybody has come to depend on, okay, this browser interacts these 17 ways behind the scenes. You're going to knock out 10 of those and combine another 5, and all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. So the product that I built that uses Firefox as an interface will no longer function. If they totally imagine like Untangle, they bundle in Firefox web browser, and you access the Untangled control panel through a Firefox web browser. So imagine if all of it, now granted they can lock in and not move forward and just keep that old one, but what happens if Firefox updates and all of a sudden you can't access your firewall? Or Firefox updates and you can't access the back end of your sales server to realize what merchandise you need to ship out today. All of a sudden you're in a pickle because Firefox wanted to become relevant again. And now that Google is the front end, it's good. People are gonna bundle Chrome, and all of a sudden Chrome can't change anymore because everybody's depending on them. That happened. Well, Microsoft just said we won the browser war. We're this is the only web browser you're ever going to deal with it. So people's like, okay, and then all of a sudden, along came a web browser. But yeah, so it's kind of that front runner's disease. Alas, Firefox, I lament you like a long lost lover, I guess.
Well, the Mozilla Foundation took the Netscape code and threw it out all the way, even down to the kernel, and rebuilt it to get us, at the time was called Firebird, which later became Firefox. And they did the pain of that, and it took them like 3 years to make that happen. All the while, IE was just trouncing on them because they had no product. They had this stagnant Netscape product that wasn't being updated, and no new product to replace it. So that's where Mozilla leaves themselves. If they throw all of their efforts into the new thing, then they have Firefox that will continue to stagnate, and new thing, whatever it is, won't be a thing yet. So it's not only the front runner's disease, but it's also the front runner's dilemma. How do you continue to innovate on the thing that everybody loves when doing so takes away from the next thing? Microsoft has been into this since Windows XP. Their biggest competitor is their older product, and nobody wants to leave it, and so they have to continue to support it, but at the same time they can't ever move forward. And there have been these hybrid opportunities of Vista and 7 and 10, and they've all been that same sort of thing. We're trying to keep the old alive while trying to build the new at the same time, and it takes two companies to do that.
Yeah, and honestly, Google can really thank Microsoft for being, for giving them the number one position, because Microsoft said, hey, you've got to upgrade to 11. We're not going to support these other things. If everybody said, well, if I have to upgrade my browser anyway, maybe I'll look and see what other options are out there. And so really you can kind of look and tick and see that, once Microsoft made that announcement, while the trend had been going, Microsoft falling, Google gaining, it kind of, the speed at which those two converge sped up at that point. So, Microsoft kind of, granted, to move forward, they had to abandon the old versions of IE, but if not forever, at least in the interim, it cost them market share. And since, IE is kind of bundled with Chrome and all of that, they're losing the revenue and the metrics of searches typed in Internet Explorer.
And I'm still not getting. Nobody has ever explained to me in a way that my thick skull could understand why market share on a free product matters. I get your search engine. You want people to use your search engine, but I don't see how Microsoft benefits from people using Internet Explorer. I don't see how Google benefits from people using Chrome. Obviously, Mozilla, if you're using their product to use their affiliate link, you're getting the affiliate. but Google doesn't have the affiliates and Microsoft doesn't either. So I don't even understand why it's a three-way race and why it matters.
Well, partly because they're using your brand, they're being exposed to your brand. So you're taking the opportunity to see your competition's brand. That's part of it. But also, if you're typing in IE, Microsoft captures that data and stores it for a period of time. Like I was listening to this TED talk, and this guy was he was researching the combination of, like, when you combine more than one drug, does that affect the side effects? And and he was wanting to pull this in. He was pulling search queries, and he could only go to individual websites like WebMD and stuff like that. And he happened to be talking to the guy from Microsoft and who was in charge of Bing search. And the guy, and he was like, "Oh, well, that's Bing. That's nice." But the Bing guy told him, "Do you realize that also anything that is typed in Internet Explorer, we also capture that and we store it for, I think it was 18 months, and like it's the search query." So you're losing the metrics of what is this user searching for. Google doesn't know that you're searching for, ducks and pigeons, so that way, whenever you go on their website and you type favorite bird, they don't know you've been talking about ducks and pigeons over here because they haven't had access to that data. So it's all about big data and data mining.
Okay, today, but this has been a fight for decades when big data wasn't the issue.
But they were capturing all of that, and big data has been an issue. I mean, we were talking about big data when we were working at Montgomery, Mark.
Yeah.
That's how long big data has been a thing.
And for everybody else in the world who doesn't know what that means, that time frame there would be 1994, 95.
Right.
So, yeah. My first job in the technology field, Montgomery Coney Elevator Company. I worked on their total elevator diagnostic system, which ran on a 386 SX chip, not just a 386, an SX with the math coprocessor.
Yeah, back when Pentium 4s were all the rage.
So in the we've like I said, we've got this three-way race between Firefox and Chrome and IE, but that's not the only three-way race in the world. There's also a three-way race between botnets. Hey, buddy, would you like to buy a bot?
Yeah, this was just an interesting article, and I wanted to bring it up to people so they could go look at it and read it. But there is a cutthroat. You think Apple versus Google versus Microsoft is cutthroat. You have the K&L bot versus the Bilal bot versus the Cron bot, and the malware writers, they hold no punches. And so what they do is they rent out the botnet to however much. Some
Now,
it's like,
just let me. I didn't set this up, and you didn't say it either. These are Android malware specifically.
Is
from Softpedia, 3 Android malware variants battle for supremacy on the underground market. So,
okay,
just to set the tone.
Okay, so yeah, and then so they have, just like you can go and if you wanted to rent server space, you can do your virtual one core server and you can add features to get the price. Well, the people who do the botnets also have, like, hey, for $4,000 a month, we will rent you access. They don't give out the code because that way, if somebody could bought the code and then they got disgruntled, they could turn it over to the AV researchers or whatever. But they will allow you to access their botnet and do things like capture credit card information, send SMSs, hijack the ads that the users see. So all of this different kind of stuff. And it was just a fascinating read for me that for a few $1,000s a month, you can market. And anyway, I don't know how to talk about this, but I just wanted I wanted our listeners to be aware of it, that malware is big business. Malware fighting is big business, but it's not as big a business as the actual malware itself. Everybody wants the information that's on your device, whether it's your root password, so they can take over your machine and then use that to spew out, spam or, rogue SMSs, or install applications that capture your username and passwords, credit card information, banking information, whatever. But they also have to talk up their version of malware while pointing out the flaws in the other versions of malware that are out there. So it is a cutthroat business, not for the faint of heart. Interesting article, and it's kind of cool. They have like control panels you can access and say, hey, I want this feature, I'm looking for this information, or I want that to happen. And they will rent you access for, all you need is 3 to 4,000 a month, up to 8 to 10,000 a month if you want the Rolls Royce of malware.
And what can you do with a botnet on a cell phone? You've got a constrained environment there, but these machines are not as constrained as they used to be. The modern mobile phone is a quad core processor with a 30 megabit Wi-Fi connection, or not Wi-Fi, but LTE connection. This is the laptop that people were trying to infect a few years ago. But you can, Seth talked about information. My life is on my cell phone, not only my appointments and my contacts and all that, but every note I've ever taken, my passwords are there, hopefully encrypted in a way that other people can't get to, but I don't know that. My secret love notes to my girlfriend, if I had one. Everything that I do would be on my phone. That is my primary computing device now. My laptop is my secondary computing platform. That change happened gradually over about the last 3 years. And I would say if you look at your life, if it's hasn't already made the switch, you're in the process of switching from your primary computing device being your computer and your secondary being the phone, to the other way around. If you got a tablet, there's a good chance that Microsoft, for example, their Surface tablets, they're selling that. They want that to be your only computing device. So if you could get on my phone, everything about me. But not only that, you have the ability to make phone calls and send texts, for example, to a place that charges, say, $1 a text. There are lots of places that do that. You can set things up where if you send this text, that gives us the right to charge you money. If you dial this number, we'll charge you 89 cents a minute or whatever, $9 a minute, whatever. You can do all that on these phones without the user being aware. The only reason that your phone has made a call is because the UI tells you that your phone has made a call. You can't see it, you can't hear it, you're not aware of the radio waves. And so if you have one of these advanced botnet or malwares on your phone, you could have, for that $3,000 a month, you could rake in $300,000 a month in phone fees and text fees without the user ever being aware. Until the bill came, they would never know it had happened. And all of it from the phone company's perspective is completely on the up and up. Your device did it using the right protocols and the right encryption. It's pretty frightening.
It's very frightening. And, especially because, there's a lot of services. You could turn off Wi-Fi on your phone. You go in, and if you want to set battery, that's one of the things you can do. But yet a lot of the apps you install, you give permission to scan for Wi-Fi, even if you've turned it off. So imagine that. You think, okay, I've turned off my hotspot or whatever, but I'm still broadcasting out, because even though it's turned off, this app that got my password is able to go around that and still have access. So this is a full-fledged computer that you walk around with in your pocket. It's a small form. It's not as fast as the latest desktop. It doesn't have as much RAM, but it can do pretty much anything a desktop can do. It just might take it a little longer. So it's a scary thought that these things could be on your machine. And a lot of times the only way to get rid of them is a factory reset. But if it's a malicious app that you got installed and, like you have it backed up, you've backed it up to to the cloud using your Google Drive account, then when you put it back on there, guess what? You've just reinfected your phone again. You don't know because you thought this was a cool app, and you're like, I can't get this thing off my phone. I've reset it 20 times. Well, delete every app you have and start over with a new username and password, or go away and get another one. That's really the only way to be positive.
Well, not only that, but you got to get a new account, because like using your scenario, any new phone that you connect to that account is infected. The good news is it's hard to get infected. It's hard to get a rootkit or a bot on your phone, a virus right now. Virus isn't even the right word. None of them are viruses. Viruses spread on their own. But because of the security inherent in both Android and iOS, and I assume Windows mobile as well, you have to manually go through a couple of steps. You have to turn on what's the software sources. I can't remember what it is, but you have to go in and say, I don't want to always install everything through the App Store. And then you have to go get the thing. And then you have to give the permissions, everything that you install. There's no way around that. That's in the OS. It's easy to deceive people who aren't paying attention. But if you are paying attention, it's really hard to get one of these. And if you just, if you always get things through your App Store, be it the Google Play Store or the iOS Store, that decreases your chances dramatically. It's not to zero, but it's much lower. And if you just pay attention, that goes a long way. But the fact that these people can charge these kind of rates and successfully, get people to give them $8,000 per month for access to their network indicates that there are a lot of people in the world that aren't careful.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Be careful, because a rogue app could have the exact same icon that the legitimate app has. And, and it could say, I want, update Chrome, or to update chrome.com or google.com or whatever. So just because something looks the same, it's what we talk about it all the time. And, a lot of times the computer people are the worst, because we think, oh, I would never do something like that. And we're not even paying attention because we're doing something else. Paying attention, there's no security as great as the wetware that you have installed if you use it.
And unfortunately, that's also the least reliable machine that most people own.
Yeah.
So there is danger here. It's not quite, in the 90s, like, when visiting a website would immediately infect you by doing nothing more than visiting the website. But we're getting there. That wild, wild west is coming to the mobile market, not because the technology is different, but because the people are careless with their phones. They're comfortable with their phones. They don't consider them a device that they have to watch out for. And because as desktop OSs A, become more hardened, and B, become less relevant, people are focusing on the mobile more. So we're going to have to go through this area of pain to come through on the other side. Having said all of that, don't put an Android, an antivirus on your mobile phone. Just don't. At this point, there is no value to that. I also think there's little to no value to that on a desktop anymore. That was not the case 5, 8, 10 years ago. But today, I think there's minimal value in having an antivirus on your desktop, and zero value in having one on your phone. That you just have to be careful. Don't be stupid. And unfortunately, smart people are sometimes the most stupid, because they believe themselves to be smart. This is a smart audience. Smart people do stupid things.
Yes, we do.
Okay, next up, the old double standard, mostly in the EU. Microsoft does something and the world says, yay! Google does the same thing and the world says, boo! Weird. Who'd have thought that Microsoft was the good guy and Google is the bad guy?
Yes. The EU is leveling some antitrust charges against Google, or against basically Google, because of how they bundle their stuff with Android. Since Android is the dominant player in the market, and Google has made it so that by default Google products come with Android, apparently for me to go download another app is a barrier to competition. But anyway, so they, this isn't like the verdict and the EU says Google must pay. Basically, they're opening an antitrust case against Google. They sent a letter out saying we're looking at this, and there's like, okay, we're going to kind of, I don't know really if it's where they're at. It's not quite a trial, but they're like moving in that direction. So their contention is that Google is using the dominant monopoly of Android to throttle competition by not only bundling Google software, but by making it easy to bundle Google software. And apparently Microsoft saw what Google was doing and thought, hey, what we can do with Cortana in Windows 10 is we can make it so that it will only work with the Edge browser and Bing search engine. You can't use Cortana to access Google, or well, I guess you could Yahoo, since Yahoo is just a different front end for Bing, but no Opera, no Safari, no Chromium or anything else. It will only work with Bing and the Edge browser. And so, I don't understand. Microsoft does this every time. This is the exact same thing of bundling the browser with the operating system, and not just shipping with it, but integrating it in, killing competition. They're kind of doing it again. And I guess their position is, hey, even though we own 95% of the desktop market, we are not a monopoly because there's more Android devices than there are Windows. And plus the fact that Google has almost or over 2/3 of the desktop search market. So that's how come I guess they think they can get away with it. But to me, this is the exact same thing. They're using their position of monopoly on the desktop to force their product on people and not giving people the option to bundle it with either a different browser or a different website.
So let me comment a bit on the first story from linuxinsider.com about the EU. If you want to access the Play Store, you have to have Google Search, Gmail, Google Maps, and I think Google Plus, and maybe YouTube. Those are the things you must agree. You can't get the Play Store on your device without those other things. That's what they call being a certified Android device. Now you can do AOSP, Android Open Source Project, and you can eschew all of that as the CyanogenMod people used to. They originally you couldn't do that. You had to go download the Play Store package to do it, which you could do legally. You just couldn't distribute it all connected. So that's what the EU is labeling the big ban hammer. They're saying that because you force us to put your browser and your search and your social network and your mail on these things to be able to get to your app store, this is collusion and it's anti-competitive and Google is evil. I don't come down on the side of that at all. Android is an operating system. You can do with it whatever you want. The end user can then go download all that stuff. So you as a developer, as a hardware manufacturer, could put AOSP on your thing, put Cyanogen, put something like that on it, and then have a one button click here to go download the Play Store. And that's all perfectly legal and right and okay with Google. Problem is the EU has never liked that. They didn't like that when Microsoft said, look, you can put any browser you want on your computer. Just because we include Internet Explorer on it doesn't mean that you don't have a choice. And as any good geek knows, Internet Explorer is the browser that you use to download Chrome. And then you're done. So it's that same thing. It's just the EU being the EU. They don't like anybody who limits their choices, which is how Seth tied this in to Microsoft saying, for the 7 or 8 people out there in the world who are using Cortana, we're taking away your choices. Now, this seems like big bad Microsoft being big bad Microsoft, but if you want to use the Google Voice search, that search is Google. It's built right into the name. It's Google. If you want to use Siri, that searches whatever backend Apple says. I'm pretty sure it's Google, but it could change at any point, and you would never know. And so Cortana is the same way. You speak to a Cortana, Cortana does a search on your behalf. I don't know if this, because I've not used Cortana more than like twice ever. So I don't know, but I think maybe you could used to be able to change the back end. Now they're saying no more. You'll use Bing. In my opinion, this is a ho hum thing. If you put all the work into Cortana and you want to file the search results through Bing, I'm fine with that. None of this bothers me in the least, but it does bother, the fact that people are less bothered by Microsoft and more bothered by Google is sort of the tail wagging the dog. Everybody used to worry about everything Microsoft did. Now they don't. Microsoft is now, even though they're still a multi-billion-dollar multinational company, they have the luxury of flying under the radar that they haven't had since 1994, which is just crazy. And Google no longer has any leeway at all. Everything they do is immediately assumed to be evil.
Yeah, we went. So it's just a change. Apple for a while was the darling of the world. It could do no wrong, but they came out and their last earnings were, not only did they not meet, they way underperform. And they, it's amazing. They made like $5 billion and they bombed. I would love to do so poorly that I made that much money and was awful. But so it's just one of those things, everything Microsoft did was wrong. And then, it's kind of gone now. Nobody cares. So everything Apple does is wrong. Now everything Google does is wrong. Now everybody hates Facebook because everyone uses them. So it's just, I don't know what company's going to be next. But I just, I don't really care because I don't use Cortana. Even whenever I played around with my Windows 10 tablet that I haven't looked at. I mean, I haven't opened. I've looked at it, but I haven't opened it in a couple of months. So honestly, I don't care because I don't really care much for Cortana, unless you're talking about Halo. That I freaking love Cortana. But so it's not a big deal, but it's just one of those things. So if the EU is going to level antitrust complaints against Google for what they're doing with the Play Store, they really have no choice but to do the same thing for Microsoft and what they're doing with Cortana, I would think.
What I think is interesting is that Google has never, ever even tried to hide that their voice search is Google. You talk to your phone by saying, okay, Google. Siri has a name. Siri, Microsoft, not Microsoft, Apple, and I forgot the name of the company that actually invented Siri. They've tried to give Siri a personality. It's not, you're not talking to Apple. You're not talking to the search engine. You're talking to Siri. Siri is an abstraction. It's a thing. Microsoft is trying to do that with Cortana, even to the point of taking the beloved personality that from the Halo series. That geeks all over the world have had wet dreams about Cortana for decades now, and so they tried to take that personality and said, now you're talking to Cortana. That thing that Master Chief had in his helmet that we all want, this is it. This is Cortana beta 0.5, but it's Cortana, and they're trying to abstract that. You're not talking to Microsoft. No. You're talking to Cortana. She's your digital buddy. And Apple, surprisingly, as much as they brand things, they went with Siri. And I know why. It's because Apple is too common a word. If you had it respond to Apple anytime somebody was, at a fruit stand, their phones would be going nuts. Google, on the other hand, is not a common word. Okay, Google is a much less common phrase. So it just worked in Google's favor. But also, there's no shell game there. Google is right there with the open kimono saying, this is it. This is who we are. This is Google search. It's Google voice search. That's the name of it. Google voice search. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a personality. In fact, I wish it did. I wish that Google search would give me some snarky comments when I say, what is the meaning of life? But instead, it obediently goes to the Google search and types in, what is the meaning of life? So it's strange here that by being honest and upfront and transparent, Google is being branded as the evil person, whereas the people who are trying to obfuscate and be dishonest isn't the word, but disingenuous, they're not coming under the same. They're not heralded, but they're not coming under the same scrutiny.
Well, a part of it is, Microsoft at first, hey, this is just a digital assistant and you can use it to do this. And so we gave you what you want the way you wanted, but now we're rolling out a change that takes away the way you wanted it and makes it the way we wanted it. So it's like they give you one thing and you use it the way you want to, and then they say, we don't like the way you're using it, we're going to modify it to make sure you can't use it that way. And that's what Microsoft has still doing. It's what they've always done. Hey, Windows 8, we're taking away the start button. Okay, oh, we're going to put the start button back, but all it's going to do is take you to this other screen that you hated. So but it's the start button, so everybody's happy. And now, so in 10 they put it back, and now they're talking about the next update is going to radically change it again. So it's, whoever in whatever the idiot was who invented New Coke, when he got fired from Coke, Microsoft found him or his son or something and brought him back. It's like, okay, give them what they want and then change it after they have it, and they can't complain, or they can complain, but they'll still continue to use it because that's what they do. And so, whereas Google was up front and said, this is the way you're going to use it because this is the way we set it up, people don't like that. Everybody remembers, oh, but Microsoft said we could do whatever we wanted, and now they're changing it because they didn't like what we wanted. And that's the thing I don't like about Microsoft. It might be a kinder, gentler, more open source friendly Microsoft, but they're still micro stupid in a lot of ways.
In my Moto X, the one trick that this pony has is that you can use a phrase other than OK Google, and they've built on their own assistant. It's the Motorola Assistant. It can handle a few things. It can send a few texts. It can do phone calls. Everything else it hands off to Google. And that one trick, it doesn't do very well. They even say in the instructions for best results, use a phrase like OK Google or OK Moto X, something like that. We're so far away from the natural language interface. We're so far away from Cortana or from Jarvis that it's really disingenuous of Microsoft to pretend that we are there. And Google, Apple, they're at least trying. They're trying to give their device some personality, but it doesn't take long to run out of canned responses. If this were a space epic, we would be dozens of light years away from where we need to be to get that kind of natural language interface that we want. We'll get there. I have no doubt that we'll throw enough brains and enough processor cores at it that we'll get there, but we're just not there yet. And I like the fact that Google, again, to me, it just seems honest. This is Google search. It's Google voice search. You're doing the same thing you've always done. You're searching Google, but you're doing it with your voice. And it's just upfront. It's a company run by engineers and not marketers. And they say, it's Google voice search, not Siri, not Cortana, but it's just searching Google with your voice.
Right. And that makes them evil.
Exactly. Because they're big. And
yep.
we inherently distrust those in power.
We love for companies to get big so that we can attack them and make them small again, thus making ourselves feel bigger. Welcome to America, world. We're sorry.
Well, it's not America. This whole article was about the EU. So we're in good company there. Good company? We're in company there. Okay, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 news stories, good and true. I think that's good enough for now. Seth, do you have a This Week in History?
I do, and this one really set the stage. Imagine what the modern computing landscape would be if on April the 30th, 1993. Is it CERN or Kern?
CERN.
I never can. CERN announces the World Wide Web protocols will be free. I don't know that you can get much bigger than that in the last 25 years.
Yeah, could you imagine the kind of stunted growth that would be if everybody who used a World Wide Web protocol, www or IP v4, or not that's above that, but anybody who used HTML, any of those things, had to pay a licensing fee?
To access, charging 5 cents for every page you went to, and the clickbait things were, you had to go through 20 slides to see what you wanted, having to give them, you couldn't have the web we have today if these weren't free. some big company could say, hey, we're going to pay this licensing cost and negotiate a deal, but you wouldn't be able, I mean, in a lot, in some ways it's bad because this allows spammers to operate with it doesn't cost them anything, but in a lot of ways it's good. I don't have to pay extra money to go to elementop.com, or I don't have to pay extra money to go to, google.com and check my email. So this is a huge deal, and that happened this week in history in 1993.
Yeah, and it all goes, back to CERN is a scientific organization. It's an acronym, but it's French, I think, and I don't know what it all stands for. But it all comes back to the information wants to be free. Information wants to be anthropomorphized. U.S. writer Stuart Brand came up with that. Tim Berners-Lee was a big believer in it when he wrote the web protocols, and it worked. It worked to the best of our society. It just goes to show you that information, learning, advancement is best when it's unshackled. And that's why that's why I get so bent out of shape personally about things like software patents, because you're taking an idea and you're patenting it, and you're shackling, you're handcuffing an entire generation who could benefit from that. And 1993, 23 years ago, the world would look very different if there had been, any kind, even if it wasn't monetary. People are, for example, not willing to use the WebM video protocol because it's got a copyright on it. Nobody's enforcing it, but it's there, so people aren't using it. It's a good one. There'll be a lot of things that are really good that people aren't using because their fear of it. Once you put it out there and say, this is yours, you use it, fine, show me what cool things you can do, then we end up with people fighting over Siri versus Cortana. This whole conversation that we had today wouldn't have been possible. Literally, the conversation we're having over Skype probably wouldn't have been possible, or would have been hampered by decades if some people had tried to squeeze some money out of it.
How much would it cost us to hang out? Friends for over half our lives getting together and chatting like this. We would be paying long distance still, and we wouldn't have video, and we wouldn't be rambling on for over an hour a week.
These would be really short podcasts. It'd be like, hey, here's the news. Bye, everybody. And maybe some of you think that would be a good thing. Cool stuff. And just to think that just 23 years ago, the web as we know it was born. It's just old enough to drink. The insurance rates haven't gone down yet. It's still, an older adolescent.
Yeah.
Maybe finishing college, maybe not. Still probably going home and have mama washing the boxers. The internet. Wow. All right, Seth, what do you have this week to lower my productivity so that you look like a better hiring option?
Okay, my link, I call this, I need more numbers, but this is, the website is called Number, and the rule is to make the number go up. It doesn't require any sound. So you can just go there and you can click, and you see a number that slowly goes up. And then there's a thing that says make number go up faster. Once you reach a certain number, you have acquired the capital to speed up. And just how fast and how high can you make the number go up?
Oh, I see. So there's an algorithm there. There's a cost. It costs
Right.
you money to go faster. And so then you have to do that math there.
And then it deducts that from the number you have. So you can't just keep clicking it. You have to wait for your number to go up to the next one.
I don't know why this exists, but it's oddly addictive.
Yes. And so if your manager caught you doing this, I would all of a sudden look like a much better hire, because they would think, what? I don't even understand what you're doing. It's so pointless. So, this is part of my plan to rule the world.
My number go up speed is up to 49.4.
My number go up speed is up to 15,262.
Oh, wow. So does it automatically increment without clicking the button? Or did you just click the button that many times?
It will keep going up, and you can click the button several times until your number drops below the threshold. And the thing is, I did this before the show started. I came back, it was still going. So, and I had closed out of the site. So I don't know
So it's a
why
cookie.
it does it. I guess so. I don't,
So I see. So you went away and had banked millions, and then we're just able to click the button a whole bunch and get it to go super fast.
Yeah. So like my next cost will be 268,365. My number is currently just over 200,000 and now it's up. So it deducted that and now my go up speed is over 32,000. And so yeah, it's pointless. I can't believe we've talked about it this long.
Oh, and it goes up a different amount each time. I'm trying to do the math in my head there. But every time you click the button, there's some algorithm there that the speed at which it goes up increases based on how much you pay for it.
The more you did last time. Yeah.
Oh, this is good radio right here. We're talking about making numbers go up faster. Okay. Need more numbers.
There you go. I mean, and this would definitely decrease your productivity, thus making me appear to be a better hire.
It would, because it's oddly addictive, and I could spend some time on this. Just clicking the dang button, which is no different than Flappy Bird, I guess.
There you go. It's my show closing spectacular.
All right. While I'm clicking buttons, I will tell you that this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can contact us. You can go to the elementop.com, click the contact us button at the top of the page. Ooh, I'm up to 548 now. And that will bring you a nice formatted web form that sends a nicely formatted email that gets priority in my inbox. That is the best way to contact us. Like unto it is sending an email to edl@elementop.com. Although I've had some trouble with that recently. I said EDL, I meant GeekRant, although the EDL one is still active. GeekRant@elementop.com. So there's been some trouble. So do the web form first. Email does seem to work, but it's delayed. Also, you could call 559-I-AM-OPI, leave us a voice message, and we'll play it on the show. We love hearing from you, good, bad, or indifferent. We like the good more than the bad, and the indifferent, well, we're pretty indifferent about. But we appreciate hearing from you. We thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll say that ends this episode of the Geek Rant.
Bye-bye.
I'm just clicking numbers. My cost now is 8,975.
Okay, and I think what happens, it doesn't continue to go up while you're away. It just starts back at that spot. But because the later numbers, it's so fast, it appears to have been going. So like my number go up speed is over 48,000 and my number value is over 2 million. My cost is 432,000. So I would be able to make number go faster several times before my number shrank. So I do it and all of a sudden my number's down to 600,000. But my number go up speed is over 77,000.
What is this? Oh, and you can click the VR button down in the bottom corner.
Oh, wow.
So you can watch it in 3D. Watch numbers go up. That's hilarious.
All righty. Let me get this thing exported.
Yeah, it'll be easy to edit when we just have two things. Makes everything go easier. Save project as. $235, right? Yep.
Yes. It threw me whenever I was going to do my numbers on my sheet. You still had it at 233, and I was like, huh? I was like, why do I already have 234?
I did. I thought I'd change that. And we made those 6 stories take over an hour.
Yeah, I guess I really only need 2 or 3 news stories.
I don't think we vamped much, though. I mean, a little at the beginning, but even not a lot there.
Yeah, and that was, I think, I mean, I definitely fumbled some on the rent a botnet, but other than that, and I made all of my things questions this time.
Yes. Even, hey, buddy, would you like to run a botnet?
Thought that was good. Pardon me, sir. Would you like to talk about browser stats?
Would you have a degree pooped on?
Wow, that number's flying now.
All right, I'm going to start the broadcast. If you're still watching, I have no idea why. We'll see you later.